The human treated the dragon woman's wounds, unaware she was the most powerful warrior in the galaxies. He was just a medic at a small space outpost on the edge of human territory, far from the big cities and the political centers of the galaxy. The outpost was quiet most of the time, with only a few other humans stationed there, and the occasional cargo ship passing through. Luke liked it that way. It gave him a chance to focus on his work, on healing and helping people, without the chaos and pressure of a big station. That morning, Luke had been in the small infirmary, checking the routine health logs of the crew. The artificial gravity hummed softly, and the air smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal. The sunlight from the nearby star filtered through the wide glass windows, turning the room into a warm, calm place. It was the kind of day that made a person feel safe, almost too safe. Then the alarms rang, sharp, sudden, and terrifying. They echoed through the empty corridors of the outpost, and Luke felt his heart jump. He ran to the control room where other crew members were already gathering. "What is it?" Luke asked, catching his breath. "Impact detected," said a young officer, his face pale. "Small escape pod crashed nearby. Coordinates are only a few kilometers from the outpost." Luke frowned. Escape pods were rarely dangerous, but the sudden alarm suggested that whoever was inside might be badly hurt. He grabbed his medical kit and ran out to the landing area. The outpost's surface was rough, dusty, and orange under the light of the star. Rocks and debris surrounded a small crater where the pod had landed. Smoke was rising from it in thin, curling tendrils. As Luke approached, he saw movement inside the pod. A figure was trying to push open the hatch. At first, it looked like a human, but then he saw the scales glinting under the sunlight. He stopped for a moment, stunned. It was a dragon woman. Her wings were folded awkwardly against her back, and her tail had cuts along the length. Her face was bruised, her eyes half closed. She was small compared to the massive dragon warriors he had only read about in history records, but she radiated power even in pain. "Hey," Luke called softly, kneeling near her pod. "I'm a medic. I can help you. Don't try to get up, you'll hurt yourself more." Her eyes flickered open, and for a moment she looked at him in surprise. Her pupils were narrow, sharp, and golden. She hissed softly, not in anger but in pain. Luke noticed the blood along her scales, the shallow cuts on her arms and face, and he felt a rush of urgency. He carefully opened his medical kit. "I need you to trust me," he said gently. "I won't hurt you, just let me help." She studied him silently, then slowly allowed him to pull her from the pod. Her wings were damaged and heavy, making her stagger. Luke supported her under the arms, feeling the heat radiating from her body. It was strange, almost unreal, holding a being he had thought existed only in stories. He guided her to the medical tent he had set up outside the outpost. It was simple, just a few stretchers, some basic equipment, and a small storage unit with supplies. Inside, the dragon woman sank onto a stretcher, groaning softly. Her tail thumped against the ground, and Luke noticed it was cut in multiple places. "These wounds," he said quietly, examining her arms and legs, "they're not recent. You've been traveling for a long time." She didn't answer. She only closed her eyes, breathing heavily. Luke worked quickly, cleaning the blood and debris from her wounds. He applied antiseptic and carefully wrapped torn scales with bandages. Her skin felt warm under his fingers, and despite her obvious strength, she was fragile in her current state. "What's your name?" he asked gently, trying to make conversation. She didn't respond. "It's okay if you don't want to tell me. I just need to know how to call you while I treat you." After a long pause, she whispered, "Arya." Her voice was rough and low, but there was a strength behind it, a weight that made Luke glance at her in surprise. "Arya, a beautiful name yet carrying power." Luke nodded. "Arya, I'll help you. That's all I want to do. I promise." He noticed her breathing was shallow, and he gently checked her chest. Her heart was strong, but the injuries could weaken her if not treated. He found splintered scales along her shoulder and carefully removed them. It took time, and each touch made Arya flinch. Luke spoke softly, keeping his voice calm. "Almost done," he said. "Just a little more, you're safe here." Arya watched him, her eyes tracking his every move. She was not used to someone showing concern without fear. Most people would either attack her or run. Luke stayed, steady and patient, never letting his attention wander. She could feel the difference, and it was disarming. Hours passed as Luke cleaned and dressed her wounds. He prepared a simple nutrient paste, something for her to regain strength quickly. She ate slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. Luke noticed the scales along her face slowly losing the dull color of pain, regaining a faint shimmer. "You're healing," he said, smiling faintly. "Not fully, but you're getting stronger." Arya nodded, though she didn't speak much. The silence between them was comfortable. Luke understood that she had been through battles and wars, and perhaps talking was too exhausting. He didn't push. Instead, he cleaned up the area, refilled supplies, and kept watch. Outside, the desert-like landscape of the outpost stretched endlessly. The wind carried dust and the faint scent of metal. Distant rocks looked like mountains in the glow of the star, and Luke thought about how small and fragile life seemed in such a vast place. Yet in front of him, Arya was a force that had changed the course of many battles. He had no idea of her true power. He glanced at her, now lying on the stretcher, breathing more evenly. Her wings were folded around her, and the cuts had been cleaned and wrapped. She looked almost peaceful, though Luke knew it was temporary. In the back of his mind, he worried about why she had come to this place, alone and injured. Who had attacked her and why? He didn't have the answers, and he didn't want to alarm her with questions. "Arya," he said quietly, "you're going to be okay. I'll take care of you." She opened one eye, just a sliver, and for a moment their gazes met. There was recognition, not of each other, but of understanding. Luke didn't judge her for being a warrior, and Arya didn't test him. It was a simple human connection, yet powerful. As the star began to set, casting long shadows across the outpost, Luke prepared a small cot for himself in the corner. He couldn't leave her alone, not while she was in this state. Arya watched silently as he settled in, leaning back but keeping his eyes on her. She had survived countless battles, faced fleets of alien enemies, and yet here she was, relying on a human for care. It was a strange, almost humbling experience. The night was quiet, filled with the soft hum of life support systems and the occasional creak of metal as the outpost shifted. Luke listened to her breathing, steady now, and felt a sense of calm he had not expected. Tomorrow, they would need to plan. Someone somewhere would be looking for Arya. The galaxy did not easily forget the most powerful dragon warrior. But for now, in the small, dusty outpost, she was safe, and that was enough. He thought about the irony. He, a simple human medic, had found himself responsible for the most legendary warrior in the galaxy. If anyone else knew, they would think it impossible. Yet here she was, wounded, vulnerable, and trusting him enough to let him help. It was a strange kind of honor, one that weighed on him heavily. He closed his eyes for a moment, allowing himself a small rest. The desert winds whispered outside, and Arya shifted slightly, turning onto her side. She was breathing easily now, the pain duller thanks to his care. Luke felt a mix of pride and worry. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but he knew he would not abandon her. Not now, not ever. And so, in the quiet night of the remote outpost, a human and a dragon woman shared an unspoken bond. One born not of battle, not of conquest, but of simple trust and care. Luke had no idea that this night would be the first step in a story that would shake the galaxy. Yet in this moment, nothing else mattered. Arya was alive, and he had helped her survive. The stars above shimmered faintly, endless and distant. Somewhere out there, fleets of ships and armies waited, unaware that the most powerful dragon warrior had chosen to rest in the care of a human medic. It was a small beginning, but beginnings often grew into something far larger than anyone expected. Luke stayed awake, keeping watch, feeling a strange mix of excitement and fear. Arya's presence was a mystery, a legend, and a promise of danger and adventure. Yet he did not feel afraid. Humans had a way of rising to challenges, of facing the unknown with courage. He did not know it yet, but Arya would soon see that humans were not as fragile as they seemed. For now, he simply whispered, "Rest, Arya. Tomorrow we face whatever comes together." And in the soft glow of the outpost lights, Arya, the most powerful warrior in the galaxy, closed her eyes completely for the first time since she had escaped. Luke Carter woke early, as he always did. The faint orange glow of the star seeped through the outpost windows, painting everything in soft light. Arya, the dragon woman, was still asleep on the stretcher, her chest rising and falling steadily. Her wings were tucked neatly around her body, though the cuts along the edges were still visible. Luke had treated her as best as he could, but he knew she needed more rest. He moved quietly, not wanting to disturb her. He checked her bandages, making sure they were still secure. The antiseptic smell filled the small medical area, and he could hear the soft hum of the outpost's life support system. The silence was comforting, but also heavy with anticipation. He did not know who would come looking for Arya, or what would happen when they did. Arya stirred, her eyes opening slowly. The golden pupils blinked at him, alert but cautious. She tried to sit up, but Luke gently pressed his hand against her shoulder. "Easy," he said softly. "Don't push yourself, you need rest." She frowned slightly, frustration clear in her expression. "I am fine," she said, her voice low and rough from sleep and pain. "I need to move." Luke shook his head. "Not yet. You've lost a lot of blood and your wings are damaged. You can't fly and you can't fight in this state. Just rest a little longer." Arya studied him for a moment, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. There was no judgment, only curiosity. She had expected fear, or perhaps even disdain. Humans often reacted that way to dragonkin. Yet this human did not. He was calm, careful, and attentive. It was strange. She had faced countless warriors and leaders across the galaxy, and none had ever shown this kind of patience. "You are strange," she said finally, her voice softer now. Luke smiled faintly. "Maybe. I just do what I can to help." Arya said nothing, but she let him help her adjust, gently guiding her so she could sit more comfortably. The cuts along her arms and wings stung slightly, but Luke's touch was careful. He cleaned a small patch of dried blood from her shoulder, murmuring words of reassurance. Arya felt the warmth of his hands and the calm in his voice. She could not remember a time when anyone had cared for her like this. "Why are you helping me?" she asked after a while. "I am dangerous, feared across the galaxy. You could be killed if others find out you are hiding me." Luke shrugged. "I don't care. If someone comes for you, we'll deal with them. Right now you need to heal. That's all I care about." Arya blinked, slightly surprised. Most humans would have panicked or run. Others would have tried to use her for their own gain. Luke simply wanted to help. It was rare. The day passed slowly. Luke brought her food, simple nutrient paste and water. She ate carefully, taking small bites, savoring each one. He talked quietly as he worked, telling her about the outpost, the small colony of humans, and the quiet life they led. Arya listened, occasionally asking questions. She found his stories simple but oddly comforting. "You live here alone?" she asked. "Not alone," Luke replied. "There are a few others. It's a quiet place. Nothing exciting usually happens." Arya laughed softly, a sound like wind over stones. "Nothing exciting, you have no idea." Luke smiled, though he did not understand her fully. He had no idea of the battles she had fought, the fleets she had destroyed, the wars she had ended. To him, she was just a being in need of care. And perhaps that was the key. She did not feel the weight of expectation from him. She could be just Arya, not the undefeated warrior of countless systems. As afternoon came, Arya grew restless. She wanted to stretch her wings to feel the air to test her strength. Luke noticed and tried to reason with her. "You can't fly yet," he said. "Your wings are still healing. If you push yourself, you could make it worse." Arya narrowed her eyes but did not argue. Instead, she let him wrap her wings more securely, careful not to cause pain. She realized he was not weak. His hands were steady and he moved with purpose. He was human, yes, but there was a quiet strength about him. She could feel it, subtle and unassuming, but real. "You have strength," she said quietly. "Humans are weaker than dragonkin, yet you carry strength in your heart." Luke shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe I just don't like seeing someone hurt." Arya studied him for a long moment, then looked away. She was not used to being seen like this, not just as a weapon or a legend, but as a being in need. She had survived countless battles, faced enemies that could destroy planets, and yet here she was, relying on a human. It was humbling. The evening came, and the outpost grew quiet. Luke brought her water and checked her bandages once more. Arya lay back on the stretcher, her wings folded carefully, her breathing steady. She watched him silently, feeling a strange sense of safety. She had never trusted anyone like this. "Luke," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, "why do you not fear me?" He paused, considering. "I've seen fear before. It does not help. I want to help, not run. You need care, and I can give it. That is enough reason." Arya nodded slowly, though she did not speak. She could feel the truth in his words. Humans were fragile, yes, but there was something remarkable about their courage. He did not need power or weapons or fleets of ships. His courage was quiet, steady, and persistent. It was different from the courage of warriors she knew, but it was no less powerful. Night fell over the outpost, and Luke prepared a small corner for himself to rest. He stayed close, knowing that someone might come looking for Arya. The galaxy did not forget its legends, and she was one of them. Yet for now, they were alone. Arya drifted in and out of sleep, her body healing slowly. She could feel the strength returning to her wings, the cuts along her arms closing. Luke's care was steady and patient. She had expected panic, fear, or weakness from humans, yet this one gave her patience and calm. It was almost comforting. In the quiet night she spoke softly, words meant only for Luke. "You are different," she said. "Most humans would run. Most humans would hide. You face me as a being, not as a weapon. That is rare." Luke smiled faintly, still watching her carefully. "Maybe humans are not as weak as the galaxy thinks." Arya thought about that, realizing he was right. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as fragile, simple, or unimportant. Yet here he was, a single human holding her life in his hands and doing it without fear. It was remarkable. She wanted to ask more questions, to know why he had chosen to help her, but she could feel the weight of her wounds. Instead, she let herself rest, trusting him. It was a small act of faith, but for Arya, trust was something she rarely gave. The night deepened and the stars above glimmered faintly. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, enemies, and legends. Yet here, in this small outpost on the edge of human space, a human medic and a dragon warrior shared a quiet, unspoken bond. It was not about power or wars or fame. It was about care, about trust, about small acts that mattered more than anyone could know. As Luke finally rested, he thought about the coming days. He knew challenges would come, that enemies would search for Arya, and that her presence would change everything. Yet he also knew that humans had a way of rising to the occasion, of facing danger with courage and persistence. Arya, too, felt a sense of hope she had not known in centuries. She had faced armies, fleets, and planets, yet here she was, being cared for by a human. It was strange, humbling, and comforting. Perhaps the galaxy had underestimated humans after all. She drifted into a deeper sleep, the warmth of Luke's care surrounding her. Tomorrow she would need strength, strategy, and courage. But tonight she allowed herself to rest, trusting that this human, small and unassuming, was capable of protecting her. And in the quiet glow of the outpost, Two beings from very different worlds shared a rare moment of peace. The galaxy beyond would not wait, and challenges would come soon enough. But for now, they rested, and that was enough. The stars above flickered faintly, endless and distant, while below, a human and a dragon woman began a story that would ripple across the galaxy. One born not of war, not of conquest, but of simple trust, courage, and care. Luke looked at her and whispered softly, "You are safe, Arya. For tonight, that is all that matters." Arya's breathing was steady, her body healing, and for the first time in centuries, she felt something she had almost forgotten. A sense of calm, of trust, and of hope. The morning light came slowly over the outpost, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. Luke Carter was already awake, moving quietly around the medical area. Arya had slept well through the night, her body slowly healing under his care. Her wounds were closing and her breathing was steady. He felt a small sense of pride, but also a growing worry. He knew that healing her was only the first step. The galaxy would not let her remain hidden for long. Arya stretched slightly, testing her wings. The pain was still there, a dull reminder of the injuries she had suffered. She had fought countless battles, survived attacks from the most dangerous fleets in the galaxy, and yet here she was, relying on a human to care for her. It was humbling, but also oddly comforting. Luke did not look at her with fear or awe. He treated her like any other being in need. "You should not move too much," Luke said softly, noticing her attempt to stretch. "Your wings are still weak. You could tear them again." Arya sighed but did not argue. She trusted him, even though she had never trusted anyone in centuries. There was something different about him, something she could not name. He was human, yes, but there was a quiet strength in his heart, a courage that did not need weapons or armies. It was rare, and it made her curious. Luke checked her bandages and cleaned the small cuts along her tail and arms. He worked carefully, speaking softly as he moved. "You are healing faster than I expected," he said. "Your body is strong, but you need to rest more if you want full recovery." Arya nodded, her golden eyes studying him. She wanted to ask questions about him, about humanity, but she held back. She was used to command and power, not simple care and conversation. Yet she found herself drawn to him, to the quiet patience and trust he offered. As the day passed, strange noises began to echo across the outpost. Distant, mechanical sounds, like ships moving above the horizon. Luke noticed immediately and frowned. "Something is coming," he said quietly. He did not panic, but there was tension in his voice. "I think we have visitors. They may have found you." Arya's eyes narrowed and she slowly sat up. The pain in her wings reminded her of her injuries, but her mind shifted to alertness. She had faced threats before, yet this time she could not fight at full strength. She had to rely on Luke, and that was unusual. "How many?" she asked, her voice low and calm. It was a voice that carried command, even when she was weak. "I don't know yet," Luke replied, scanning the horizon with a small binocular device. "Maybe a scout ship, or maybe more. We need to be ready, but for now, stay calm. Don't move unless necessary." Arya studied him for a moment, then nodded. She could feel the truth in his words. Humans were underestimated, but they had courage. She had seen many species fear her, run from her presence, or try to manipulate her. Luke did none of those things. He faced her as a being, not a weapon. It was rare, and she respected it. The sounds grew louder, and soon, a small ship appeared on the horizon. It was sleek and dark, moving quickly toward the outpost. Luke quickly went to the communication panel, trying to send a warning to the others, but there was no response. The outpost was isolated, far from help. Arya's body tensed, but she did not panic. She allowed Luke to help her stand, supporting her as best he could. "We need to hide," he said, pointing toward a small storage hangar nearby. It was not much, but it offered cover. Arya agreed silently, letting him guide her. As they moved, Arya could feel the power of her attackers. They were not ordinary humans. The sensors on their ship indicated advanced technology, weapons capable of great destruction. She would have faced them easily if she were fully healed, but now she had to rely on strategy, not brute force. They reached the hangar and ducked inside. Luke quickly sealed the door, checking the locks and reinforcing them with spare panels. Arya crouched behind a stack of crates, her wings folded carefully. She could feel her strength returning slowly, but she was not ready to fight yet. Luke looked at her, concern in his eyes. "They will come for you. I don't know why, but they know you are here. We need to think fast." Arya nodded, her mind racing. She had enemies across the galaxy, but she had never been cornered like this. She studied Luke carefully. He was ordinary, but ordinary humans often surprised her. She could trust him to act logically and without fear. That was valuable. The ship landed nearby, its engines thrumming softly. Arya could hear movement outside, soldiers stepping carefully over the dusty ground. Luke handed her a small, lightweight weapon, not very powerful but enough to defend herself until she regained full strength. She accepted it silently, testing the balance in her hands. "Stay close," Luke said. "I will follow your lead." Arya nodded, feeling a strange sense of connection. She had led armies, commanded fleets, and defeated planets, yet here she was, relying on a human to survive. It was humbling but also enlightening. Humans were underestimated, but they had something unique. Courage, compassion, and a quiet strength that did not rely on power alone. The soldiers approached, scanning the hangar. Arya and Luke held their breath. The humans were skilled, but they underestimated the defenders of the galaxy. Arya could feel their fear, their hesitation. They knew she was dangerous, though they did not know why. Luke watched her carefully, ready to act if needed. He did not need to know her full power, only to trust her instincts. Arya's body was still healing, but her mind was sharp. She analyzed the situation quickly, noting exits, cover points, and potential threats. She whispered instructions to Luke, guiding him through movements that minimized risk. The soldiers paused, sensing something unusual. Arya's presence radiated power, even when she was weak. They hesitated, unsure of what they would face. Arya smiled faintly under her mask of caution. Humans often underestimated her, but they would learn quickly if they pressed forward. Luke followed her instructions carefully, moving with precision and calm. He had never faced combat like this, yet he did not panic. His trust in Arya and her trust in him created a silent coordination that was unusual but effective. They were a team, despite being from different worlds. As the tension grew, Arya felt her strength returning. The injuries on her wings and arms were healing faster than expected, thanks to Luke's care. She flexed her claws slightly, testing her reflexes. The soldiers outside did not know what awaited them. Luke whispered, "Are you ready?" Arya nodded. "Soon, just a few more moments." The soldiers moved closer and Arya's senses sharpened. She could feel the power in the air, the energy from their weapons, the fear that lingered despite their confidence. She smiled faintly. Humans underestimated fear, but she had learned to control it. She would use it to her advantage. Luke watched her, sensing the change. The quiet human courage, combined with the dragon warrior's experience, created a powerful force. He felt a mixture of fear and admiration. He was just a medic, yet he was part of something far greater than he had ever imagined. Arya's eyes glowed faintly as she prepared to defend herself. She did not want to harm the humans unnecessarily, but she was ready to fight if forced. Luke stood close, ready to follow her lead, trusting her instincts completely. The soldiers entered the hangar, their weapons raised. Arya waited, calm and focused. She could feel the energy in her body returning fully. Luke's presence grounded her, reminding her that strength was not only in power but in trust and strategy. In a swift, controlled movement, Arya revealed a glimpse of her true power. A wave of energy pulsed from her, not destructive, but enough to push the soldiers back. They stumbled, surprised and unprepared for what they faced. Luke watched in awe, realizing that the being he had cared for was far more powerful than any story could describe. Arya whispered to him, "Stay behind me." Luke nodded, moving closer to her as she prepared to defend them both. The soldiers recovered quickly, but hesitation remained. They did not know the full extent of her abilities. Arya's presence alone was enough to make them cautious. For the first time, Luke understood why the galaxy feared her. She was not just a warrior. She was a force of nature, precise, controlled, and powerful beyond imagination. Yet she waited, restrained, using only what was necessary to protect them both. The battle was not over, but for now, Arya had shown the soldiers that she was not to be underestimated. Luke felt a mix of relief and awe. He had helped care for one of the galaxy's most legendary warriors, and now he was witnessing her true strength. As the soldiers retreated, Arya turned to Luke, her golden eyes softening. "You are brave," she said quietly. "Humans have courage I did not expect." Luke smiled faintly. "I told you, humans are not as weak as the galaxy thinks." Arya nodded, feeling a growing respect for him. She had fought alone for centuries, trusted few, and relied on no one. Yet here she was, relying on a human, and discovering that trust could be more powerful than any weapon. The outpost was quiet once more. Luke checked her bandages and helped her settle. She was still recovering, but the immediate threat had passed. The bond between them had grown stronger, built on trust, care, and shared courage. Arya realized that the galaxy underestimated humans, not because they were weak, but because their strength was different. Courage, compassion, patience, these were weapons as powerful as fleets or energy blasts, and Luke Carter embodied all of them. As night fell, they rested side by side. The stars above glimmered faintly, endless and distant. The galaxy beyond waited, full of danger and challenge. Yet here in a small outpost, a human and a dragon warrior had faced the first test together, and they had prevailed. Luke whispered softly, "We survived today. We'll survive tomorrow too." Arya closed her eyes, letting the truth of his words sink in. Humans were underestimated, but they had a hidden strength, a quiet power that could change the galaxy. She had witnessed it firsthand, and she would remember it. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more enemies, and more battles. But tonight, they had survived together. And in that survival, they had discovered something rare: trust, courage, and the beginning of an alliance that would shape the stars. The next morning, Luke Carter woke early, as usual. The outpost was quiet, but he felt the weight of the galaxy pressing just beyond the horizon. Arya, the dragon warrior, had slept well, and her wounds had improved significantly. The cuts along her wings and arms were nearly healed, and the strength in her legs had returned. Luke could see the faint shimmer of her scales returning to their natural brightness. She was no longer weak, though she remained cautious. Arya sat up slowly, testing her wings. The movement was not painful anymore, and she flexed them gently, feeling the air against her scales. She had been wounded, yes, but Luke's care had restored her. More than that, it had given her time to observe humans, to see their quiet strength firsthand. She had faced enemies who relied on raw power, fleets, and advanced weapons. Humans relied on something different: cleverness, courage, and persistence. She had underestimated them, and now she realized they were more capable than she had imagined. "You're fully healed faster than I expected," Luke said quietly, watching her carefully. "Your body is strong and you recover quickly." Arya smiled faintly, though she did not speak immediately. She felt a strange warmth toward him, not affection exactly, but respect and trust. He had cared for her without fear, without expectation, and without judgment. She had faced legends and emperors across the galaxy, yet here she was, relying on a human to restore her strength. "I owe you," she said finally, her voice calm and low. "Humans, you have something I did not expect: courage and patience, qualities that are rare." Luke shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do: help someone in need." Arya studied him silently. There was truth in his words, yet she knew he did not realize the full importance of what he had done. He had saved the most feared warrior in the galaxy, and he did so with nothing but simple courage and care. It was remarkable. They spent the morning preparing for what would come next. Arya moved carefully around the small outpost, testing her wings, flexing her claws, and practicing small maneuvers. Luke observed, offering advice and helping her avoid unnecessary strain. He was still a medic, not a warrior, but he had learned quickly how to support her, how to anticipate her needs. As the sun rose higher, a new message arrived on the outpost's communication system. Luke quickly opened it, reading the content with growing concern. Fleets had traced Arya's escape pod, and their approach was inevitable. They were coming, more determined and better equipped than before. Arya read the message over his shoulder. She had expected it. The galaxy did not forget its most powerful warriors. Yet this time she was not alone. Luke was beside her, calm and ready. It was an unusual feeling for her to rely on someone else, but it was also comforting. "We cannot fight them head-on," she said quietly. "They have numbers, weapons, and strategy. We need to use cleverness, not strength alone." Luke nodded. "I understand. We can make traps, distractions, use the outpost to our advantage." They moved quickly, preparing the outpost for defense. Crates and equipment were repositioned to create barriers. Small energy shields were activated in key areas. Luke worked efficiently, following Arya's instructions, placing sensors and alarms to detect movement. She observed, guiding him with precise advice, her experience complementing his creativity. Arya had fought countless battles, but she had never worked alongside a human in this way. She realized something important. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and adaptable. They could think outside the patterns of galactic warfare. Luke did not rely on raw power. He relied on observation, planning, and intuition. It was a strength she had underestimated. As the afternoon passed, they heard the first signs of the approaching fleet. Distant engines, humming and low, grew louder. Luke checked the sensors, noting the size of the approaching force. It was larger than the previous group, faster and better armed. Yet Arya did not panic. She had regained her strength fully, and now she could fight if necessary. "Remember," she said quietly, "our goal is to survive, not to destroy. We need to protect the outpost and ourselves. Cleverness first, power second." Luke nodded. He had learned to trust her judgment. She was a warrior, yes, but she also had wisdom beyond most beings in the galaxy. Together, they were a team, combining human intuition and dragon experience. The fleet arrived over the outpost as dusk began to fall. Shadows stretched across the ground, and the air was tense with anticipation. Ships descended, scanning the area, and a squad of soldiers landed near the perimeter. Arya and Luke were ready. The outpost had been prepared carefully, traps set, sensors in place, and the terrain mapped in detail. Arya moved quietly, testing her wings and claws, preparing for any sudden attack. Luke followed her instructions, observing the enemy movements and activating traps at the right moments. The soldiers approached cautiously, unaware of the strategy that awaited them. Arya waited for the perfect moment, her golden eyes watching every movement. Luke crouched nearby, monitoring energy levels and sensor readings. The soldiers advanced, confident in their numbers yet hesitant. They could sense her power even when she remained calm. A small distraction created by Luke, a carefully placed flare and a shifted energy shield, caused the soldiers to split, some moving toward one side, some toward another. Arya moved silently through the shadows, positioning herself for a controlled display of strength. She did not attack immediately. She waited for the right moment to assert dominance without unnecessary harm. Luke's hands were steady as he operated a small control panel, activating alarms and light signals to confuse the soldiers further. His simple, human ingenuity amplified Arya's power, creating an effect greater than raw force alone. She smiled faintly, impressed by his ability to adapt quickly. When the soldiers realized their formation was disrupted, they advanced more cautiously. Arya stepped forward, wings unfurling slightly, showing strength but not aggression. Luke stayed close, ready to assist if needed, yet confident in her control. Arya's golden eyes glowed, a subtle but powerful signal. The soldiers hesitated. Some faltered, unsure of the next move. Luke noticed their hesitation and whispered to Arya, suggesting a controlled redirection of their attention. She nodded silently, moving with precision, guiding them toward traps and barriers without causing serious injury. The outpost became a maze of confusion for the attackers. Traps triggered, alarms sounded, and shadows moved unpredictably. Arya's presence was commanding, yet restrained. Luke's quick thinking amplified her strategy, turning the outpost into a tactical advantage. One soldier approached too closely, trying to flank them. Arya moved swiftly, blocking the path without causing harm, her claws just a hair from the soldier's armor. The human froze, realizing the danger without fully understanding it. Arya stepped back, letting fear control rather than force. Luke observed everything, ready to assist, and realized something important. Humans often underestimated themselves, relying too much on technology or numbers. Yet when paired with beings like Arya, their cleverness, patience, and courage became invaluable. He felt a deep respect for her, and she for him. As night fell completely, the fleet's initial assault began to retreat. They had underestimated the human-dragon combination, and the traps, strategy, and presence of power had forced them to reconsider. Arya's controlled strength and Luke's ingenuity had protected the outpost without excessive destruction. Arya turned to Luke, her golden eyes softening. "You did well," she said quietly. "Humans are clever, stronger than they appear. I see now why you survived and helped me." Luke smiled faintly, feeling pride but also humility. "We survived together. That's what matters." Arya nodded. She realized something profound. Strength was not only in power, ships, or weapons. Courage, patience, creativity, and trust could be far more effective. Humans possessed a hidden strength, underestimated by the galaxy, yet formidable when combined with experience like hers. They checked the outpost once more, repairing minor damage and reinforcing barriers. Arya's wings were fully healed and she moved freely. Luke had learned to anticipate threats, act with precision, and trust his instincts. Together, they were a formidable team, combining human cleverness with dragon strength. As they settled for the night, Arya reflected on the day's events. She had faced fleets and warriors across the galaxy, yet she had never relied on a human in this way. The experience had shown her that humans were not weak, not fragile, but capable of courage and ingenuity that rivaled many alien species. Luke watched her quietly, thinking the same thing. He had cared for one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, and now he had fought alongside her using nothing but strategy, trust, and patience. He realized that humans, underestimated as they were, could influence the galaxy in ways others did not expect. The stars above shimmered faintly, endless and distant. The outpost was safe for now, but Arya and Luke both knew that the galaxy was vast, full of challenges, and that their next test would come sooner than they expected. Yet they faced it together, stronger and wiser than before. Arya stretched her wings, feeling the cool night air. She turned to Luke and said softly, "The galaxy underestimates humans. They will learn soon, and I will ensure you are part of that lesson." Luke nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. "We'll face it together," he said. And under the distant stars, a human and a dragon warrior prepared for the future, aware that the hidden strength of humanity, combined with her power, could change the course of the galaxy. The morning light spilled over the outpost, painting everything in soft gold. Arya, fully healed and strong again, stretched her wings, feeling the power in her body returning to its peak. Luke Carter was already awake, moving quietly around the small medical area. He had slept little, thinking about what would come next. The galaxy would not forget Arya and they would need to be ready. Arya looked at him, golden eyes steady and sharp. "Today we leave," she said calmly. "The fleet will not give up. They will search for me and we cannot hide forever." Luke nodded. "I understand." We face them together. They prepared the outpost carefully, checking weapons, sensors, and escape routes. Luke's mind worked quickly, thinking of clever ways to protect themselves, distract enemies, and buy time. Arya's experience and his ingenuity combined into a strategy neither could have achieved alone. The quiet trust between them was now unshakable. By mid-morning, sensors picked up ships approaching. Not just one or two, but dozens, an entire fleet moving fast and coordinated. Luke's heart raced, but he remained calm. Arya stood beside him, her wings unfurled, radiating controlled power. She did not need to shout or display force fully yet. Her presence alone was enough to make lesser commanders hesitate. "Remember," she said softly, "our goal is not destruction but control. We need to survive and send a message. Show them human cleverness and strength without unnecessary bloodshed." Luke nodded. "I'm ready." As the fleet descended, Arya took the lead. She moved with precision, guiding Luke through the hangars and corridors of the outpost, activating traps and using the environment to their advantage. Energy shields, barriers, and alarms created confusion, forcing the enemy to slow down and separate. Luke's quick thinking amplified the effect, making the outpost appear stronger than it really was. The first soldiers reached the inner area, but Arya was ready. She did not attack with full power, only using controlled displays that stunned and pushed back, demonstrating strength without killing. Luke observed carefully, using sensors to detect weak points and guide the moves. Together, they controlled the battlefield with calm and precision. Arya noticed how humans reacted under pressure. They did not panic. They adapted, improvised, and found new ways to solve problems. Luke's small interventions, shifting energy shields, triggering alarms, redirecting attackers, made a huge difference. She realized that humans were underestimated because the galaxy never saw their patience, strategy, and courage combined. As the soldiers moved forward, Arya displayed more of her power, carefully. A wave of energy pushed them back, enough to make them rethink attacking but not enough to harm them seriously. Luke guided her movements, anticipating their reactions and adjusting the environment accordingly. The fleet's commanders watched from above, realizing they were facing something unexpected. A single dragon warrior with a human ally, turning a simple outpost into a fortress of strategy and control. "They are learning," Arya whispered to Luke. "Humans can teach even the most advanced fleets something." Luke smiled faintly. "We've underestimated ourselves too. We can do more than we think." The soldiers regrouped, sending small squads to flank the outpost. Arya and Luke anticipated their moves, using traps and barriers to split and confuse them. Each small victory demonstrated not brute force, but intelligence, patience, and coordination. The attackers began to hesitate. They had faced many threats, but none had forced them to retreat without a full assault. Arya turned to Luke. "It is time to show the galaxy that humans are not weak. They may fear, underestimate, but cleverness and courage can change everything." Luke nodded. He knew what she meant. Humans had been dismissed as simple and fragile by other species for centuries, but today, alongside Arya, they could prove the opposite. They moved to the highest point of the outpost, overlooking the landing area. Arya's presence filled the space, her golden eyes glowing faintly. Luke watched her, understanding that this was more than survival. It was a statement. The galaxy had assumed humans were easy to conquer, but that assumption would now be challenged. Arya's voice was calm but carried power. She spoke in the common language of the galaxy, audible to any listening sensors. "We are here. We are not weak. Humans are clever, courageous, and resilient. Underestimate us at your own peril." The fleet above paused. Commanders communicated quickly, their voices tense. They had expected to find a wounded dragon warrior, easily captured. Instead, they found a coordinated defense, strategic brilliance, and strength beyond their calculations. Luke realized they were witnessing the impact of trust, patience, and courage combined. Arya stepped forward, spreading her wings fully. A controlled pulse of energy radiated from her, not destructive, but powerful enough to push back the nearest ship slightly. Luke activated nearby defenses, amplifying the effect with careful timing. The fleet's soldiers faltered, unsure how to respond. It was clear that brute force alone would not work here. "They will learn," Arya said quietly. "Humans have strength beyond their size, beyond their technology. Courage, strategy, and intelligence are weapons as strong as any fleet." Luke watched in awe. The galaxy's perception of humans was changing, starting here, in a small outpost, with a dragon warrior and a human medic showing what could be achieved with courage, patience, and cleverness. As the fleet began to retreat, commanders deciding that engagement was too costly, Arya turned to Luke. "You have shown me something important," she said. "Humans are not weak. Your species has courage and intelligence that many fear. Together we can change how the galaxy sees you." Luke smiled faintly. "We just survived, but maybe surviving is enough to prove something." Arya nodded. She felt a rare sense of respect and trust for humans, and especially for Luke. He had not fought with strength alone. He had fought with heart, patience, and strategy. He had proven that humans were capable of much more than the galaxy had assumed. The fleet retreated into space, leaving the outpost intact. Arya and Luke watched them go, knowing that the message had been sent. Humans were not to be underestimated. One human, one dragon warrior had demonstrated it clearly. "The galaxy will remember this," Arya said softly. "Not because of destruction, but because of strategy, courage, and trust. Humans have hidden strength." Luke nodded. He felt pride, but also a sense of responsibility. Humanity had always been underestimated, but now, through simple courage and clever thinking, they had shown their potential. Arya had seen it firsthand, and the galaxy would soon learn. They checked the outpost, ensuring it was ready for any further attacks. Arya's wings were fully healed, and she moved with ease and grace. Luke had become more confident, learning to act quickly, think strategically, and trust his instincts. Together, they were a team that combined human cleverness with dragon strength, creating a force that the galaxy could not ignore. As night fell, Arya looked at Luke, her golden eyes reflecting the stars above. "We have changed something today," she said quietly. "Humans are underestimated, but now they have a chance to be seen differently." Luke nodded. "We have, and together we can do more." They rested for the night, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, yet the first message had been sent. Humans had hidden strength, courage, and intelligence that could rival even the most advanced species. Arya had seen it, and she would ensure that the galaxy understood it fully. Arya stretched her wings and looked toward the distant stars. "They will come again," she said. "But they will think twice now. They know that humans are not weak, and they will remember what we have shown them." Luke watched quietly, feeling a deep sense of pride and hope. Humanity had survived countless dangers, but today they had proven something greater. They had shown that courage, patience, trust, and cleverness were weapons as strong as fleets and energy blasts. The stars above shimmered endlessly, distant and infinite. The outpost was safe, and Arya and Luke had formed a bond stronger than any battle could break. Together, they had not only survived but had sent a message to the galaxy. Humans were underestimated at their own risk. Arya turned to Luke. "We leave soon," she said. "But remember this, humans have strength the galaxy cannot ignore, and you human have shown me why." Luke smiled faintly, feeling the weight of responsibility but also hope. "We'll face whatever comes next, together." And so, under the endless stars, a human and a dragon warrior prepared to face the galaxy, stronger, wiser, and united. The hidden strength of humanity had been revealed, and the legend of their courage and cleverness would begin to spread across the stars. They had survived, they had fought smartly, and they had proven that humans were not weak. The galaxy would remember, and humanity's place among the stars would never again be underestimated. Arya's golden eyes glowed faintly as she said, "The galaxy will learn and humans will rise. And you, Luke Carter, have my trust and my respect. Together, we change the stars." Luke nodded, feeling a mixture of pride, awe, and determination. He had not only saved a legendary warrior, but had become part of a story that would echo across the galaxy. Humans were underestimated no longer. The night deepened, stars twinkling above as they prepared for the future. The galaxy awaited, full of danger, challenge, and opportunity. Yet now, with courage, strategy, and trust, humans had proven their hidden strength. And this was only the beginning. Arya and Luke rested side by side, ready for the next chapter, knowing that the combination of human cleverness and dragon warrior strength could change the galaxy forever.